I've been asked to explain what I find the best way to fit the magnetic Deal Extreme wide angle and fisheye lenses to a keychain camera is. Okay, well, these are a couple of Deal Extreme lenses. This is the 067 wide and the fisheye. They attach to the camera by means of a magnetic ring. That's a camera that I've already fitted a magnetic ring to. Well, actually, the lens is magnetic. The ring is just mild steel, so that the magnet will attach to it. When it's supplied, it comes with a little sticky back to it. The idea being you glue it on, but I find it better to epoxy it. Of course, the downside of that is if you get some epoxy on the lens, you're going to seriously mess things up. The other thing that's necessary to do is the front edge of the casing. This is a brand new Type 16 HD keychain. The front end has a curve to it where the lens is, so if you were to glue it straight on, the lens would be pointing slightly offset that way. So what I tend to do is just use a scalpel blade to pare away the end of the camera case, just so that when you epoxy the ring on, it's parallel to the lens face. I use Araldite 2-pot epoxy. These are the lenses. As I say, they just fit magnetically to the front of the camera. Okay, before I start to pare this away, I'm going to tuck a little bit of tissue down there to stop the dirt and rubbish getting into the lens. Okay, there's the tissue pushed into the hole. Now, because of the curve of the case, it's only necessary to pare away the right hand side of the case there on my image. So what I'm going to do is just very carefully shave away a bit of the case so that the attachment ring sits nice and flush and level to the lens on the front of the case. Okay, well, I don't know how well you can see that, but if you look at this, you can see I've pared away this side here of the casing. Now, one important thing here is just there's a tiny little hole in the front, which is in front of the microphone on the circuit board. The ring, when it's located on there, if I could just do this, God, it's difficult to do this wobbling about holding the camera, and I'll stop for a second and put the ring on. The ring, when it's sat on the front, I'm just testing here to see whether I've got it sitting nice and flush, which I think you'll find it's actually sitting quite parallel now to the lens face. The ring, when it's sat on there, sits very close to this tiny little hole in front of the mic, so I've actually split the case, made another hole here by just burning with a paper clip very carefully so that I didn't damage the microphone. Made another little hole just to the other side of the microphone. Anyway, that is now ready for gluing on with a 2-pot adhesive. I was saying, when I pared this away on this side, I tucked a little bit of tissue in there to stop the dirt and debris going onto the lens. But show you again here. That's actually pared away now so that that ring will sit on there parallel. When these rings come in the packaging from Deal Extreme, I say they've got some kind of double-sided sticky stuff on them. You need to peel that away before you glue it, otherwise I don't think it'll be very strongly fixed. Okay, next step then is glue the ring on. What I tend to do is use a toothpick. Again, tuck some tissue down there so that there's no chance at all of getting epoxy onto the lens, because if you do, that's end of camera. Tuck a little bit of tissue down there and very carefully put some Araldite around where you want to epoxy this on. I wouldn't say it's an easy job, and it's one that I face with a bit of trepidation because it's so easy to bugger the camera up by getting epoxy onto the lens. Anyway, I will show you the next step. Okay, here we go. That's the 2 parts of the Araldite epoxy on there. That is my little camera with the tissue tucked into the hole. tucked into the lens hole so that I don't get any rubbish on it. So what I'm going to do is mix a little bit of this, very carefully put it round in a circle around the lens, and then position the ring. Of course, it's very important that you position the ring so that the lens hole, the lens itself, is bang in the middle. So what I shall do is position the ring, and then before the epoxy goes off, this is 5-minute epoxy, before it goes off I shall just tiddle and push and shove with another cocktail stick to make sure it's bang in the middle before I leave it on this so it doesn't move. One of these helping hand things. I leave it on that just for 5 or 10 minutes until it's gone off, and then job done. After putting the epoxy round in the location that the ring was going to go and putting the ring on, I just pulled out the little tiny bit of tissue that I had over the lens, just so that I could really see whether I've located it bang in the middle, and it looks pretty damn good to me. I mean, if it's not in the right place, you can always once it's gone off, you can always pick it, get a scalpel blade behind it, and it will just flick off. So now I'm going to put this into my helping hands thing here. I put it in this and put it in up this way so that there's no chance of that ring sliding about and relocating itself. Parallel in that plane, and it's parallel in that plane. Oh, by the way, that's another one there that I've just stuck a ring onto, one of my old 808s. No. I don't use super glue to do this. One, because it would go off too quickly, and two, because I think there are fumes given off by super glue that would probably damage the lens, whereas I think the 2-pot epoxy doesn't actually have that same problem. But all the same, being a cautious kind of person, I tend to, while it's just going off those 5 or 10 minutes, I tend to put a little fan heater on cold blow just to keep the air moving away. Okay, so here it is. It's glued into position. It looks like it's very well located bang over the middle of the lens. It's in the correct plane in that direction, and it's in the correct plane in that direction. So the only thing to do next is to attach the lenses and see how well the 16 performs with a wide lens. So I'm going to head off outside and just point it at the houses opposite. Okay, here's the field view with the standard lens on the Type 16. Trying vaguely to point at the beige coloured house in the middle of the hedge. Here's the field of view with the Deal Extreme 067 wide angle lens. Not the best of conditions today, but it'll give some idea of the. And finally, this is the D Extreme fisheye lens, or so-called fisheye. Shame there's a little bit more sunshine.